Show! Here are your hosts, Rob and Steve.
Yeah.
Hello,
People, how are we doing today?
Oh, I've not got it on the chatty chat. I better put it on the chat, I suppose.
I'm on the chat.
Look, there's people there and everything.
I just said hello to people on the chat and everything.
Hello, everybody. Hello, Rob.
Hello, Steve. How are you?
I'm not so bad. How's yourself?
It's been a pretty good day today. A little bit exciting.
Yeah, it's not been a bad. Yeah, it has. It's not been a bad day. Yeah, it's been okay.
Yeah.
As days go. But hello, everybody out there. You're all very welcome. I won't say by name, but there's lots of you out there, and it's awesome to see you out there. Thank you very much. Just if you have questions this evening, folks, a bit of housekeeping. If you have questions, we've got the lovely Leona there is a moderator in the chat, and she can put links and things like that up. Leona, feel free, if people want to put their links up for lives and stuff like that, and they mention it in the chat, then please feel free to stick whatever lives and things they want up in the chat and stuff. If you've got a question about anything that we're discussing this evening, put QQQ in capital letters and then follow it by your question. And if Leona doesn't know the answer, then she can, we'll also take the question. And,
I certainly won't know the answer, but I'll give it a jab.
Yeah, and if Rob doesn't know the answer, then I definitely don't know the answer. So that's the way that sugar crumbles.
And that's the end of the show, folks.
Yes, so bye, thanks. So this evening, we're all about chucks and stuff.
Hello,
chucks and stuff. But also, another very important note is that it is our 10th program.
It is.
Episode.
I can't believe
show.
it.
I know.
It's crazy.
How quick did that go?
Are there still people in chat, or is that just like a repeat of the first show?
Yeah, no, I didn't like to tell you, Rob, but basically what I've done is I've worked out the technology side of it, and I just re-roll. I just re-roll the same chat from the first show. We don't actually have anybody watching.
That wouldn't surprise me in the slightest.
There you go.
Joseph, there's Joseph.
Yes. So it's all about chucks and things. It is our 10th show anniversary. And we're going to do a giveaway, Rob. We're not going to say too much about that until towards the end of the show, because that'd be stupid.
That's right. Yeah, because you got to wait now. You got to stay around to find out.
Yeah.
It's exciting, isn't it, Steve?
Isn't it?
10 shows.
But yes.
That's a decade almost.
Title doesn't say 9, does it?
I don't know.
I think that.
Did you mess up,
10.
Steve?
It is 10, but I probably put 9 in the title, because I copy and paste it and normally change it, and I probably forgot to change that bit. But the thumbnail says 10. The thumbnail says 10. So hold on, I'm going to go and change it. I'm going to go and change it right now, just because I can. You keep talking to the lovely folk there, Rob, because I know you really love being put on the spot like that.
Oh, I love being in the spotlight, Steve, just like you.
Go for it.
Okay. Look into my eyes. Okay, so yes, chucks this evening. There's a ton of choice when it comes down to chuck, and that has also got a lot to do with your lathe. Some of the old lathes have got some very strange spindle thread sizes. A buddy of mine had one, and it was 3/4 inch, 16 TPI or something odd, and he couldn't find a chuck for it, so he had to get an adapter. So we'll talk a little bit about adapters again later. Because I actually have an adapter on mine, and I think Steve's got one there too. So we can talk.
Got it with me and everything.
Yeah, I've got mine on the lathe pretty much all the time whenever my chuck's on. So 1 inch, 8 TPI being a standard thread, and some of the bigger lathes have got bigger threads. What are you doing, Steve? My thread is 1 1/4 inches. So the chuck I've got doesn't fit that. What?
I don't know what they're talking about in the chat. It says #10. It said it all along. I didn't just change it. Okay. Carry on.
I don't know what I was saying, actually. I was put right off there, Steve. Yeah. So my lathe being a 1 1/4 inch thread on the spindle, the chuck that I've got doesn't fit that. The thread's only 1 inch, and it doesn't fit. So the only option then is to have an adapter. Steve's showing one right now.
There you go. That's my adapter.
So what size adapter is that, Steve?
Yeah. This is a 1 inch, I believe, to a 3/4. Yeah, I believe it is.
Just stay there for a second, Steve. Keep talking.
You screenshotting, are you? No.
No.
Yeah.
You carry on.
But yes, that is the adapter. Now, the thing is about the adapter, this is I'll talk more about the chuck, but the adapter, I don't like it. You know, it's doing the job and all that, but if I was to I'm going to buy another adapter for this, which is going to be the insert type adapter that, you know, you can get a smaller one, which is like
I don't see how that would work, because how do you insert a 1 inch into a 3/4?
No. What I mean is, it's a smaller. I've seen them online. They're a smaller nut.
Yeah.
They're not a big long bar like this.
Yeah,
It's just like
this.
It's just. Well, it's even smaller than that. It's literally just a
this
hexagon nut. Yeah,
this is too long.
Yeah.
This is the 1 1/4.
Yeah.
Down to 1 inch in this chuck.
So the issue that I have with this, and I think Rob agrees, is the amount of vibration you get through this is ridiculous. When you've got your spindle in here, and then your headstock, and by the time you put a piece on this, the amount of vibration gets exaggerated right through this piece, through this, and it doesn't matter what you put on it, you get quite a lot of vibration and noise and all sorts of weird stuff happening. So yeah, I need to look at getting a different type of adapter. I've got another chuck. I've got the record power chuck, but again, I need an adapter. But I think it adapts down on that one.
So your lathe has a 1 inch spindle, is that correct?
I believe so. Leonie will tell you to be sure, because it's
so realistically,
it was hers originally.
Realistically, you'd be better off with a chuck that fits that spindle. End of story. Eliminating that altogether. And I'm the same. The problem for me is that I bought this particular chuck and all the components that go with it, so that I do change all the jaws out, and it's like about a $1,200 investment. Now, to put that to one side and not use it because I have to use a spindle adapter, I don't know if I can do that.
A bit stupid.
Kind of hurts a little bit. So talking about chucks, this is my second chuck. Yeah, the Easy Wood chuck. And yeah, all of the components together came to about $1,200. And then this, I think, was about $50. I think $20 to $50, somewhere in there. But it's a great chuck. We can talk about it a little bit later. But that's the only problem. I was hoping that there would be a piece in there that I could take out to change it from 1 inch to 1 1/4 inch. They could do that in the factory, right?
Yeah, I think manufacturers of chucks need to start realizing that there are lots of different spindles out there, and that they need to make one size on the inside of their chuck, and then make bush inserts that fit into that. That
would be perfect.
And you know, and even if it just fits their chuck, at least they're offering it. You know, even if it's their own particular thread that bush works in, at least they're still going to make money from it. But they're helping out the consumer, because it's a pain in the ass to get the right freaking bush and adapter and all that jazz. Yeah, for sure. So let me that's the wrong one. No point you buying more adapters, Steve, when you need a new chuck anyway. Just get well, true. That is true, Leona. Yes.
Yeah.
But again, on the same note, well, no, because I have got a lathe that chuck will fit on without the adapter. So I suppose that would make sense once I do get another chuck. But again, it's ka-ching, 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 because chucks aren't cheap. This is we may as well go. You've got the higher end chuck, Rob. right there with
Well,
you.
one of the higher end chucks. It's not the higher
Well,
end chuck.
I think it pretty much is.
Vic,
when it comes to cost.
I think Vic Mark make a very expensive chuck as well. Vic Mark are from Australia. They actually have a place out west Canada that sell Vic Mark as well. I can't remember the guy's name. I did meet him at the wood show in Toronto last year.
Probably Vic and Mark or something like that.
No, it's neither. No. But actually, that guy had COVID recently. I don't know how he's doing, but he did get COVID. But anyway, yeah, Vic Mark is a high-end lathe and tools, all that stuff. It's really good stuff. But it's just the lathe itself is anywhere from $9,000 to $12,000. And then I'm not sure what the chuck system is, but I know it's expensive. I'm not a big fan. Now that I've got the Easy Wood, I'm not a fan of taking out 8 screws and putting back in 8 screws every time I want to change the jaws. Now, a lot of people will say, well, just get a jaw for each set, or get a chuck for each set of jaws. And I think that is probably the way to go. But it's not cheap. You're still going to be spending $1,200 or more, because a chuck is about anywhere between $100 and $200. You can get the stronghold chuck.
You can get the carriers as well. I had to message the owner earlier and ask. I couldn't for the life of me remember what they're called, but you can get carriers as well that you can put onto your jaws, and you can just leave them on permanently, and it makes them that little bit easier to change them out on regular chucks as well.
Oh, but I don't know.
It's still a little bit of work.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Ruben's got the stronghold.
Right. Yeah, I mean, there are a huge amount of chucks out there, but there are only a small amount of chucks that seem to be used among the wood turning world, as far as I've kind of seen. You know, you've got your record power, you've got your easy chuck, you've got your I've got a SIP one here. That's what this one. This is low budget. This is, I think,
with the Tommy bars.
I bought it. Yeah, 2 Tommy bars. Just like that. That one's over there now, but with 2 of these, and you literally just lock those in place, and that's how you tighten it. Now it's a lot easier now because I have the spindle lock on my lathe. You can just put your spindle lock on, and you can just use one of the Tommy bars, because obviously it's held. But this one's, you can hear it. I don't know. It's started to get a bit of a rattle in it. It's all getting very loose. It's been well used. This was my very first chuck that I bought. €99 this was to buy. So what's that? That's probably about $120, is it? $130 Canadian dollars.
Probably something like that.
Quite low, and I mean, still expensive. It's still a big chunk out of your wallet, you know, but it's done a savage amount of work, this chuck, and it has never ever let me down. The only thing that this cheaper chuck, the Tommy bars, as you call them, the very end of them rounds off. I don't know if that's over time. The end rounds off. I've cut. They used to be probably another 1/4 inch longer, and I've had to cut them and grind them down flat again, because what happens is it ovals. There's one really bad one on there. It ovals the holes out. So when you tighten something up, it slips, and it really hurts when the bar slips out of the chuck. And it can also make you.
Does it give you a blister
live?
Does it give you a blister?
Ouch! It really hurts. No, there's a story there, isn't there, Rob?
There is.
But yes, great chuck, lasted forever. Bought that years and years ago. I think I've had that about 5 years now, that chuck, and it has done loads of work.
Well, my first chuck was actually my dad's chuck, and it was in pieces. It was held together with an elastic band inside. I kid you not, the three jaws were held together with an elastic band, and it basically had a cone inside the chuck. The jaws sat inside the cone, held together with an elastic band, and there was a big cup that went over the outside. And as it drew them in, it drew them out.
So like a collet, huge collet, huge
kind of
collet,
like a collet.
Yeah.
But and I can't remember the name. The way you tightened them up was with two they were similar to Tommy bars, but they were more like wrenches with one
Yeah, I
notch
know.
at each end. Similar thing.
Yeah.
That was my first chuck. I then got a kit, the PSI Barracuda. It was about $350 on Amazon. It's probably still available now. I got the gold one. It's really pretty, and a limited edition. Anyway, that came with multiple sets of jaws and everything that I could possibly need, and thought it was the dog's end. But over time, I realized it was quite small, and I think it's 3.5 inches, 4 inches, maybe. I'm not sure. Smaller than the one-way chuck. Anyway, so as time went on, I decided to upgrade. And because I was working at Lee Valley, actually, I was fortunate enough that the classes that I was doing there paid for the chuck. So I bought the Easy Wood chuck there. And the thing I like about this compared to the PSI Barracuda, the PSI Barracuda has like a regular chuck key, like a drill chuck key almost. It's over there. I'm not going to grab it, but the end of the chuck key is essentially the same as that.
Yeah.
Whereas the one-way, the Easy Wood chuck key is a hex key. So these are a lot stronger. They don't wear out anywhere near as fast. So it's a better chuck from that perspective. So yeah, there's what, 3 different ways of tightening up your chuck there, 3 or 4 different ways that we've talked about: the Tommy bars, the wrenches, the standard style of chuck.
My
key,
Nova chuck has the hex key, the same as that.
Yeah,
it's great
so
job. Yeah,
they're much better. And then as far as removing your jaws, at one point I actually the head of one of the screws rounded off inside the jaw, and I couldn't get the damn thing out. So I didn't know what to do. So I decided I would drill it out, and I managed to get the thing out. But that was kind of what pushed me into getting the Easy Wood, because the Easy Wood, you all know, I'm sure you all know how you take out the jaws. You just literally push that in, and it releases the thing, and it just pops off. So
there's no harm. I suppose there's no harm showing them there. If you want to demonstrate it, can you demonstrate it, or is that putting you on the spot?
No, I could demonstrate it. So, oops, no, I've dropped it and everything.
Why you don't do that?
Okay, so yeah, this is the Easy Wood chuck. First of all, there's the zoom ring. This is the zoom ring. If you see that, you can just do it by hand really easily. That's the zoom ring. And then secondly, you see the little hole, oops, just there. If I can get that in there.
That's an age thing, Rob.
And it comes off. And you can see the little mechanism that's in there. You're releasing that. You're basically pushing that down, I think. Anyway,
yeah, you do.
And then they're not numbered, so it doesn't matter which orientation they go in. The other chucks are pretty well all numbered, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
And if you don't put them back that way, then it gives you some weird stuff going on. But yeah, they just pop straight back in like that.
Yeah, they are. I've used the Easy Chuck when I was demonstrating. There was one on one of the lathes when I was demonstrating. I can't remember whether it was at UKIS or whether it was, I think it was UKIS, because they did a whole challenge where we were trying to see who could change the jaws the quickest. And believe it or not, I think Chris, the blind wood turner, was one of the quickest to do it. It's so easy.
I'm
a
slow.
blind man can do it.
It takes me about 3 minutes.
But yeah, changing jaws is a pain in the hole, and I'll tell you why it's a pain in the hole, especially when you're live and you mess up the size of your tenon. Don't ask how I know this, but when you're doing your very first live ever, live demonstration
in front of an audience, in front
of an audience, and you turn your tenon just about 3 mil too small, and you have to change the jaws in front of them. That 5 minutes of changing the jaws Even though it
painful,
was
yeah.
myself, Mike Walt, and Martin Saban-Smith all changing the jaws together, trying to do it quicker, it actually ended up being longer because we were fumbling over each other. It's really quite embarrassing, you know.
And that's whole part of the live experience, right?
Right.
And that's why you don't see me do a lot of live stuff. For that reason, I don't like to get embarrassed. But yeah, I mean, look at Mike, for example. He made his famous two-part Coventry goblet, right?
Yeah,
it's famous.
He's got the golden goblet to prove it too.
Yeah. So,
but yes,
but it happened.
We digress. So lots of chucks on the mark kit. Jaws for chucks. All the Jaws are pretty much Jaws is good. 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 5, and 6, and
1 and 2 are the best.
37. Different jaws for different chucks. Many different jaws for chucks, but all chucks pretty much have the same collection of jaws. Leona, that was the Mark. Yeah, that was the Mark 1 Easy Chuck, I believe. They did have issues with the Mark 1 Easy Chuck, and then I think they fixed whatever the problem, and then they relaunched it, I believe.
I've never had an issue with my chuck, Leona. It's been awesome.
Yeah, I think that I think that is like a Mark 2 version. The Mark 1 they did have issues with the carriers on them, I think. But yes, Jaws. I had a question. I may as well do this question straight away. It was from Banana, but question was, if I can find it. Adam had a question actually. What's the difference between the 4-pin jaw set and the 2-pin jaw set? Because on a lot of sets of jaws, when you buy them, you can either buy a 2 jaw set or a 4 jaw set on the pin jaws. And all that I could find out the difference was the gripping capability. When you have just the 2, Adam, it doesn't matter if the wood you're gripping is odd shape, because you're only gripping it on 2 corners, right? So if you put a rectangle piece of wood in, there's going to be 2 corners that are the same, and the 2-pin jaws will hold that bit of wood, whereas the 4-pin jaws, 2 will miss because you're wider than you are narrower, if you know what I mean. The 4-pin jaw, the 4 set jaws are designed to have a completely square, say, pen blank put into the jaws rather than an odd shape, and I believe that's the only difference.
I know that there is a 2-pin, a 2-jaw chuck specifically for pen blanks, for drilling pen blanks as well. I'm trying to think. I can't think who made it now. Actually, I should know this because I gave one away recently on my website. Hang on a second. It is the Nova G3. The Nova chuck has a 2-jaw chuck specifically for drilling pen blanks. Now, these are the jaws that I use for my easy wood when I'm drilling. I can't hold 4 of them, but this basically, and there's 4 of those that grab that. But yeah, you want that to be perfectly square, ideally. As Steve was saying, with 2 jaws, it's good for wood if it's not quite perfectly square. The other problem too is if you're grabbing a piece of wood like this, and this is actually got a screw in it, maybe only 1 screw. If you're extending to grip or squeezing to grip, it's going to put tension on those screws, depending on if it's really intended for that purpose.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of them have 2 screws in them now, the jaws.
Yeah.
So yeah, Adam, you can do that. I've done that in the past, and it's worked for me perfectly. Even with just normal jaws, I've taken 2 jaws out to hold wood before. I mean, obviously you do it. I'm not telling you can do it and be 100% safe. We have to have a disclaimer all the time on this show, is that you do whatever you believe is safe to do so. But yes, I have personally used 2 jaws in my chuck. I've taken 2 jaws out just to grip things.
Well, I haven't. I follow the safety guidelines on all of my tools properly to the T.
Yeah.
As should
Rob,
you.
is that your nose poking me in the ear?
No,
I
I'm
hope
just
so.
happy to see you there, Steve.
So yes, that's the difference, as far as I could tell, between the 4-pin and the 2-pin jaws, the sets. I hope that helped you, Adam. So yeah, moving on. The other thing is as well that I thought we might cover is straight jaws, crow jaws, I think some people call them, where you've just got the little blip at the top that hold on and dig into the wood. You've got dovetail jaws and straight grip ribbed jaws as well. So there's all different sorts of jaws. They all depend on having the correct mortise or tenon.
Well, not every jaw is dovetail jaw either. I think that's what you're getting at.
Yeah.
Some of them have ribs in. They're ribbed for your pleasure, for your wood's pleasure. And they're not dovetail. The jaws on this, for example, the easy wood, they're dovetail jaws and they're perfectly smooth, so they won't mark up the wood, but it's the angle of the metal against the wood exactly that's grabbing the wood, so it doesn't need to be ribbed.
Yeah, so that is a picture of a dovetail set of jaws, but they're dovetail only on the outside of that set.
It does appear to be. Mine's dovetailed on both in and outside.
Yeah, so the difference with if you have a dovetail in and out is that this piece here that goes straight down would also be the mirror image of that. So it would come down at an angle there. That's exaggerating it, but you would literally have like a triangle either side of that. So you'd have to cut a dovetail on your mortise or your tenon, depending. This is just designed for a mortise, dovetail mortise and a straight tenon, which is kind of, I don't think I've ever seen jaws like that before, personally.
I don't understand that, because if the inside of the jaws are straight like that, you would expect them to be ribbed to grab the wood, because that's not really grabbing the wood very well.
Yeah, I mean, maybe they are. Maybe they are. It's just for the picture. Now, I can actually, do you know what? I can use that picture again. And what I was meaning by the crow hook, I'm not sure what the other people call them, but just at the top here, can you see my arrow there? You can moving. Just here, it's just like a square that sticks out. Or sometimes it can be, I've got a set of jaws that's a triangle that sticks out, and it's literally just a spike that sticks into your wood. Now, the only trouble with that is that you wouldn't want to put it on a finished tenon. If you're using a tenon for a foot, for instance, that's going to mark up the side of your tenon. It's going to stick a big dent in the side of it, right? But you need to turn a little groove in your tenon for it to grip it. And then the others would be ribbed all the way down there. Yeah, some of them. Yep.
Yes. I haven't seen that style. I'm just trying to bring up a picture of the jaws that Lee Valley have. If I can get a decent picture, I don't think I can, because they have the easy wood, but they also have the Axminster. The Axminster is a gripper jaw set, so I believe they are ribbed, but I'm not seeing a very good picture to show you. I can't find a very good picture, but yeah, they've got like 2 or 3 ribs on the inside and the outside, which grip.
I've got 1 second. I believe. Do you know what? Let's share, and what we'll do is we'll go through all of the pictures I have, and we can talk about them. That's probably the best thing we can do here. That's what
Leona's saying the same thing, that she's got. I think she says they're Axminster sea jaws that have that.
Okay. So these are the pin jaws that I was talking about. That's a set of 4-pin, and you can see that that's a perfect square in the center there. So if you wanted to close them down and have all 4 jaws touching the 4 sides of the wood, you would have to have an equally cut square to fit into that jaw. Now these
Actually,
are all many
got an
different sets
example.
here.
I've got an example of what we were talking about. First of all, if you bring this up when you're ready.
1 second.
First of all, this is the easy wood chuck, and as you can see, it's got that V groove that Steve was talking about.
Yeah.
So it's dovetailed on the inside and the outside. This is a different jaw from the same chuck. Also has, the V on the, so you've got dovetail outside and inside. But on the inside, you've also got, if you wanted to have a long straight tenon, then these are going to grip the wood. They're going to dig into the wood. And that's exactly kind of what we've just been talking about. And I forgot that I had these. It's just one set of the jaws that I've got. So, yeah, these ones don't mark up the wood, but this will. But you're looking at a longer tenon for this, like a dowel or something.
Yeah, I mean, that would be more for if you were turning a long lamp or something like that you need a really good, good grip on.
Yeah, if you're turning something longer, for sure.
Yeah. 1 second. Let me just. Right. So these are a good example of a lot of jaws that you can get for various chucks. This one down here, the bottom left, is your 2-pin. Your 2-set pin jaws, and they're designed for drilling. They're your pen blank drilling for using the Jacob's chuck and drilling into your pen blank. And again, you could put in odd wood, obviously not huge big bits of wood, but that will hold your odd shaped pen blank, which you do get occasionally if they're badly cut. Or so you got, so this one here is ribbed for it's for a mortise. That would do a lot of damage, wouldn't it, to a mortise? I'm thinking you'd have to have a deep mortise on that as well.
I'm not sure. I haven't got a chuck like that.
That's probably more for holding maybe
jaws.
Like a cup or something like that, like that's quite deep, hollowed already, but it's still going to damage the inside.
Is it not threaded? I'm not sure. I don't.
No, it doesn't look.
No,
threaded,
it doesn't make thread. It doesn't make sense. I don't know.
No.
I don't know what you'd use that for. Ruby's in the chat. Hi, Ruby.
Hi, Ruby.
Maybe she would know what you would use the jaws for. That set of jaws.
Yeah, this one here, Ruby.
It's the one that's got the. Yeah, zoom in on that thing.
That one. Yeah. I can't zoom into the actual one, but
okay.
This is the one that you were just showing over here. So you've got your dovetail at the top, and then you've got your
ribs all the way down from there.
Yeah. So all depends on the size of mortise you want to use, or tenon. Now this is a faceplate. This is the new type. It's the most modern type faceplate, which is the ring plate.
Yeah, it goes in the chuck, right? So
yeah, so really cool. A little bit difficult for centering, I'd say, but there's probably a way of doing it. I mean, you draw your compass circle on the bottom of your bowl or whatever and centralize it. But yeah, I've got another picture of the actual ring. That's the close up of the pin jaws. That's my chuck. The only reason I want to put that chuck up is if you buy the cheaper chuck. This is the one I have. This is a SIP chuck. That's what it used to look like when it's brand new. You see the worm screw? When you take this chuck out of the box and you unwrap it and you get all that lovely smell of oil and all that, take this worm chuck and throw it as far as you can get it across the garden, and then think no more of it. Okay? Because it's guaranteed the first bowl that you turn with that worm chuck, it's going to snap because it's crap. That's the only thing about this chuck set that is crap, is that it just breaks. I've had 2 of these. I replaced it because I broke one, and 2 weeks after I got the new one, it broke again. It just shears off at where it joins the plate. It's just a really bad design and weld. So just saying, throw that as far as you can across the field. These are the different adapters.
He'll step on it next year.
These are the different adapters. This is the long one that myself and Rob has, the silver one that we have, and then this is, I've got one of these as well and another chuck. That's from going from small to big, and that's from big to small. But you can get a version of this that is small here and then large here. But I've yet to. I know they are out there. Because I saw them in a chuck at a demonstration. I asked the guy where he got it from. He said, I don't know. That is something we'll look at another time. That's another crappy worm screw.
Cold jaws.
They're good. That is the one I have on my Nova chuck, and they are brilliant. Never had an issue with those.
This is the one that comes with the Easy Wood. Do you want to show that?
1 second.
So this is the one that goes with the Easy Wood chuck. Basically,
oh right, you swap it round.
You can grab it from either side, and you've got, I believe it's a 1/4 inch and a 3/8. You use a 1/4 inch drill for that one and a 3/8 drill for this one, and they grab really well. They're solid. That's a solid screw chuck.
And that's handy where you can just swap it round too.
Yeah. Well, on the smaller pieces, right? It depends on the size of the piece you want to turn. You might want to use just a 1/4 inch hole and that. You don't need to have a massive screw in a small piece.
Benjamin says that they're pin jaws. They're for holding the piece in a drill out mortise that it then removed when you flip the piece, like you do with a screw. Oh right, okay. So it's for a mortise that you're not too worried about damaging, but it's a really good hold.
Steve, you've disappeared completely.
Yeah, I did that because that's the kind of guy I am. So these are the carriers that you can get that you put onto your jaws, and you can leave them on the jaws.
Well, there you go.
So they're about 40 euro, I think, to buy, which would be about 50 quid. Will it be? Which would be about $60-70. You leave them on your jaws, and then you can just slide them in and out of your chuck. It only works in some chucks, obviously, but it's just a little bit of a quicker way of doing it rather than screwing all the time.
And you have to put them in properly, otherwise they go all out of sync.
Yeah. So that's the up close easy chuck. And again, that's mine. Right. So these are literally designed to be worm chucks, right? They're just literally just go straight onto your spindle, and away you go. You can add screws into the back if you want.
And one thing that should be noted as well is you don't screw that into end grain.
No,
you don't use a worm screw into end grain. You use a worm screw into side grain.
That's a vacuum chuck. That is something that I would love to get, but they seem to be quite expensive. I'm looking at seeing if I can make my own, but we'll talk about them in a little while. These are how you can get sets. You can buy the sets. I think that's probably how your Barracuda came. Is it like that?
It was similar to that. Yeah.
So that's your sets that you can buy. That's an eccentric or off-center chuck. Very clever piece of kit. Very expensive. You can get over it by making your own type of jigs and things for doing that, but they're expensive and safe, I suppose, if you're into the safe side of it rather than face plates. Rob has a tiny face plate and he needs a bigger one.
I do. Here, I'll show you my face plate. And this is it a 3-inch face plate, I think. It's got a lot of screws in it. Inch and a quarter thread. So it's the right size for my lathe and everything. But if I want, I've been doing a few bigger pieces lately, 14, 16-inch bowl blanks. And using this really is too small. I should be using a 6-inch faceplate. Yeah, so Ruby's saying to figure out the size of the drill bit you need, you measure the inside of the threads so that inside of the threads on that one is 3/8. Inside of the threads on that one is 1/4 of an inch. So you've got to leave the hole small enough so that these teeth will grab the wood.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks for that, Ruby.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's pretty much all the pictures I have. So
Okay.
I'll stop sharing there. Yeah, so face plates. I've got the bigger one. I've got an 8-inch. I've also got a 6-inch, and I've got a 4-inch. So I got all those with the lathes that I got. So I've never had to buy a faceplate, as it were. And one of those I've actually got fixed on my sanding disc. I made a permanent sanding disc that you just screw onto the lathe.
That's another thing. I have a 6-inch faceplate with my MIDI lathe. That came with a 4-inch and a 6-inch. This lathe only came with a 4-inch, which is surprising. Thinking about it now, you would think that the Laguna 1836 would come with maybe 2 faceplates, right? A 6-inch and a 4-inch. So I'm a little bit surprised about that. But there it is.
Saying that, some of the size of the bowls you've turned with that small faceplate, have you ever had any problems with it?
No, it's been solid.
So
never had a problem.
And
again, that's a lot
got to
of
weigh
that.
It up, I suppose.
A lot of that is down to how you turn it as well. Speed, tool presentation. There's a ton of things that can add to an accident, right? If you're thinking of an accident happening because your faceplate's too small and the wood's going to come off, there's a bunch of things that's going to add to that, not just the small faceplate. Small faceplate is the start. If you have it too fast and out of balance, that's another factor. If you're using scrapers, that's another factor. And if you're not really approaching the wood very well, or you're jamming the wood because you've hit in air or something, all of those are factors to having a bad accident. Whereas when I was turning those big pieces, I think my speed was about 500. It was slow until I could get it trued up, and then I started bringing the speed up. But speed is a huge factor. I know that's kind of sidetracking from the size of my faceplate and everything, but it's all kind of incorporated in. You have to get a feel for your own tools and what you have and what it's capable of doing. I know a lot of beginners, it takes a long time to understand that. So, and to have that explained to you by somebody, and hopefully, especially if you've got somebody there at the lathe with you to show you and explain it to you firsthand, it's a good thing. Like Ruby will tell you, well, what speed should I turn this at? Well, always start at the slowest speed. Never turn the lathe on with a brand new piece mounted on the lathe going fast. Never do that. Always turn the speed down when you've got a new piece of wood on the lathe. You're about to start turning it. Bring the speed all the way down. Gradually bring it up until it just starts to wobble. The lathe will start vibrating. As soon as that happens, back the speed down a little bit. And that's the speed you want to be at, ideally. But yeah,
and with
face shield, all that good stuff.
With face plates as well, the type of screws you use is really important. You don't want screws that are going to break really easy. You'll see people using Gyprock screws, which is the plasterboard screws, which they're really brittle.
Drywall screws.
Drywall screws. They're really brittle and they shatter. They literally shatter. So they're not able for the use. And also face plates on end grain is never a great idea either, because
my
again, you're screwing
again.
That's all right. You can pop out and pop back in again.
I will.
But yeah, in end grain as well, when you're screwing screws into end grain, with the vibration of the wood, they're going to, more times than not, they're going to loosen and they're going to pull out. So that's never a great thing either. I'm just going to wait for Rob to pop back in. Having issues with his camera this evening. When using a screw chuck, does it matter if the bottom of the blank does not align with the face of the plate all the way around, which is difficult to do if the blank... let me make sure I'm reading that right. When using... Oh, that's Rob. Oh, it's gone again. Technology and Rob. God bless him. Pull your wire, Rob. Pull your wire. When using a screw chuck, does it matter if the bottom of the blank does... Oh, there he is. Sorry, everyone. There he is.
Yeah.
Just reading this question. When using a screw chuck, does it matter if the bottom of the blank does not align with the face of the plate all the way around, which is difficult to do if the blank is not flat? I presume that you meant is not flat.
You want it to be as home as
It does.
possible.
I would say, I would say it does matter, because you want that as flat as possible. The same with the chuck. You want it. You want the wall of your bowl or whatever you're fixing straight up against your chuck as well. Because if it's off at all and you get a catch, it's going to rip that thing out of there. It's going to just pull it out.
I was actually just leaning over to grab some screws, the screws that I use, generally speaking. So these, going back to this again, these are not countersunk. And these are the screws that I use. They're stainless steel, number 10 screws.
I use those as well, yeah.
Threaded all the way up, and they're inch and a quarter, inch and a half, something like that. You can use deck screws, but not drywall screws. So
yeah, I use they're not the Phillips head either. They're the square head. They're the electrician ones that I use. So,
well, they're actually a Canadian thing. Robertson screws are a Canadian screw, a Canadian type of screw. You can't get it in the US. No, I know. But these are the other screws I use for smaller pieces. They're not drywall screws. They're deck screws. They're pretty solid. Number 8 with a square head. But
but don't use the Sheridized deck screws though, because the Sheridizing process that they put it through also makes them brittle as well.
Yeah, you don't want the brittle screws.
Yeah. So Joseph says it can be done, but you need to shim it. Yeah, so you could shim the bottom of a bowl if it's exaggerated, but if it's cut at 45, we say, and you want it to go up against a flat surface, then you could put a wedge shim in there to hold your bowl straight. But anything that you're adding in there, you're adding more to go wrong, right? So if that bowl just slightly moves and that shim comes flying out as well, I mean, obviously I exaggerate it with a big lump of a wedge in there. I mean, a lot of bowls are just slightly off, but I would say personally try and go an alternative route for fixing your blank on there, even if you've just got to put it between centers and turn a tenon onto it, or however, you know. So
well, Ruby just mentioned about the Craig screws as well. I don't know if you have them over there. The Craig screws have it's almost like a washer, the screw head and a solid washer, and then the screw. They're quite a coarse thread. They work well too.
They're like a roofing screw for putting on steel cladding on roofs and cladding screws and stuff like that. They have a head and a washer as well. They're pretty
they're not actually washers. They're part of the screw, but they're similar. Yeah.
All right, I gotcha. Yeah. Yes. So that's face plates. All sorts of different size face plates, all different sorts of metal they're made out of. There are cheaper types of face plates, and I actually saw a YouTube video. I was trying to find it so that I could link it, but if I find it I will add it to it. But I watched a YouTube video once where, I mean, everything he was doing was wrong. It would be an ideal YouTube video to say, right, you see what this guy's doing, don't ever do it. But it's whatever his faceplate was made out of, whether he'd made his own or someone had made it for him, but it just literally shattered down the center. It split in half down the spline. Where it went on to the spindle, it cracked all the way along that and cracked right up into the faceplate, and it wobbled and flew off and took off with the bowl on it, and it took off over his shoulder with the faceplate and jagged bits of metal spinning with it off past his ear, and it just clipped the side of his face helmet as well. You saw him go, oh, and you heard it go bang on the side of the helmet and disappeared. And then he was all calm and casual. Oh, sometimes these things happen. No. That was a homemade faceplate. I would not think that a steel faceplate would just split straight down the middle like that.
I don't think so.
So yes,
but that's not to say that there aren't a lot of jigs that you can make yourself. We were talking earlier, Steve, about jam chucks being something that you can use to reverse mount something. I actually don't do a lot of that, but I have done today for demonstration purposes.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, they're all basically, there are alternative ways of chucking and fixing your pieces onto a lathe. And if you haven't got the $200 or whatever it is to go out and buy yourself a chuck, there are alternatives for chucking to your lathe and fixing your piece safely to the lathe. And we'll go through a few of them now. Rob has the jam chuck there. I'll pass you over and you can you can go with it, man.
So earlier on, before the show, I just turned myself a little drinking cup. So it is.
Just is it an Irish drinking cup? Is it?
It is because it's got a good whiskey in it. So I am. Anyway, so even wall thickness all the way down to the bottom. And I basically it was a spindle turn, and then I parted it off and then cut the last little bit. So obviously we're all familiar with that look. And there's more than one way of dealing with that. You could put it on a sander or whatever. People use these things on a drill press. I've dropped that one, but I've got 3 sitting there. They use these on a drill press and just bring it down. That's another alternative.
Or even on your lathe in a Jacob's chuck, as long as the Jacob's chuck is fixed.
I've done that a lot too. But the preferred method, the best method that you could do is a jam chuck. And I'll bring you down real quick. I'll just block that for a minute.
Oh, good Lord.
Okay.
I didn't know where you were taking us there for a second, Rob.
Yeah.
I'm worried.
So this is the same piece of wood that this was. I'm going to just move you a bit more. The same piece of wood that this was turned from. Now, obviously, this is quite a distance from the headstock because of the spindle, the adapter, the chuck, the length of this piece of wood, and then this was here as well. So I used tailstock support as much as I possibly could. Otherwise, you'll get a vibration for sure. And as I parted it off, I then turned this down for a jam chuck. So this can go in here. And there it is, jammed in there. I haven't actually tightened up the chuck because I had that off a minute ago. But, and plus, because I've taken it off now, it might not run true.
That's why you're a bit, oh God, Steve's made me take it off now.
Steve made me take it off and now it's not running true. But
you're welcome.
If I hadn't done that, this would still be running through and it wouldn't be wobbling. It's wobbling just a little tiny bit. But now that's on there pretty good. And if you just nibble away at that, you can remove that and it comes off with a bit of a pop. It's on there pretty good.
Sound.
It's on there pretty good. And
everyone in the chat just went, oh.
If you fail, just go down a little bit more. If it's a bit, because you've got to sneak up on it, right? You got to sneak up on that before it's too loose or whatever. So it's just that last little bit is where it grabs.
Yeah, so I mean, the trick is when you're making a long jam chuck like that, anyway, is to just gradually taper it, make it cone shape, and just slowly bring it up and up, and then it will pop in lovely.
Yeah, it's all on me. It's all about me, Steve. Today, look at that.
Wow, it's because you asked me to.
So that's one jam chuck. The alternative jam chuck would be to make an innie and then force it in.
Yeah.
And then it would be inside. It all depends really on the shape of the piece that you've turned and everything as well. So you have to make your own decision on how you want to do that. But it's just another alternative. Jam chucks are very satisfying. Yeah, because now I've got the option to clean this up real nice with a tool and then sand it, and I can put detail and texture on it and do whatever I want. So, and it'll be as close to perfect as I can get it. Whereas if I just try and sand that, it's not going to look as good. So,
Yeah, and it's going to take a lot more time. I mean, when you're using
Yeah.
tools, you can take it off a lot quicker than just sanding it back.
Yeah.
No, wrong one. Ruby just said this just before we moved on. You do realize that with a large bowl, you can start it out between centers and create a 10 on the tailstock
Yeah,
side. Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. There's so many different ways of forming tenons and mortises. I mean, a lot of people drill out a mortise
I was
now
going to say,
just with a Forstner bit.
the Greek fella, what's his name?
Costos, is
Costas.
it?
He tends to use a Forstner bit.
Costas.
He'll drill a Forstner bit hole, and
Yeah.
that's his mortise.
Yeah.
I've seen him do that loads of times, and it just looks so simple. It's almost like cheating. It's so easy.
But also another handy tip, if you are going to do that, is to buy 2 Forstner bits the same size, because you have a point in the bottom, right? If you didn't want to reverse it, if you didn't want to reverse it and clean up, so what you can do is you can, and this is handy as well if you're drilling out inside a vessel or something, is take the Forstner bit and grind off the centering point that's in the center. Yeah, grind that right down so it's flush with the base of the Forstner bit. Drill it with your one with the point, take it out, and at the very bottom you can run your Forstner bit into the bottom, and it will clean up the bottom, and it won't have that point. The last sort of few millimeters you can take away, and it just leaves that nice clean bottom. So that's a handy tip. I've got a couple of those that I've ground them away. Really handy for doing that. Nothing to do with chucks, but it's good for your mortises and things like that. Handy little trick.
It's good to have a clean bottom. I
have a chuck here. I suppose, do you know what we can do? We can do
jigs and tools, jigs and tools, jigs and tools, jigs and tools.
Because I've got a jig this week.
It's all about well, you got the jig. Go for it, Steve.
I got the jig. Well, it's a chuck, jig, chuck. I'm going to put me up for a second. This is one that I 3D printed. Now, it was a prototype to start with, and it is for spheres, but I have designed one for finishing the bottom of bowls as well. This is, it looks a bit scary. It's not as scary as it looks, honest, once it's in and place. I've got these all sticking out. You wouldn't have these sticking out like this. You push them through. But this is my sphere jam chuck, and it's 3D printed. It's solid. And basically you put your sphere in there. I've also just designed inserts that go into this with a smaller circumference, so you could just add them on, and you can put smaller spheres in, and it all just clamps together. They just kind of sit inside and get smaller and smaller. I'm going to print those off, and you put your sphere in there. This is concave as well. That goes in there, and then you push your bars through like so. They're a bit stiff at the moment. You do have to put, I'll just push through 2 just to line it up, but you push those through like so. They line up like that, and then you put your nuts this end. Now, I have to be very careful. What I do when I use this is I put red electrical tape on the bolts when it's spinning. Now, obviously, that's got a mortise, and it's dovetailed as well, printed with a mortise dovetail. That goes straight onto my chuck. And your sphere sticks out a good bit. So I'm always working in this direction. I'm never at the side here, so I'm never in the way of these bolts spinning. The next one that I make, I'm going to make these so that these are countersunk into the front, so that the nuts will be countersunk into this just a little way, and you tighten it up from the back. So all the chuck side of it, you're nowhere near. So all this would be flush. But this was a concept that I was working on. It's worked loads of times. I've done a couple of spheres where I've hollowed them out and done stuff. But it's an awesome jig. It took It took 16 hours to print that, believe it or not. But now I've got it, it's really handy. But like I say, I'm going to make a slightly smaller one, and it's all going to be set in there. But you can make, you could make one of these out of wood very easily. I have done. I've actually got a video on how to make one out of wood. It's down below in the description. There is a lot of videos. I'll talk about them in the description. But yeah, just turn yourself a wooden one. Very easily done. And you can, the one I made, I didn't have these bars. I just screwed 4 screws in the front and held it together. So that is my jig of the week.
Steve, that's solid, right? Ian's asking, is that solid?
Yes, solid. I mean, it's 3D printed, but all the way through it, it's I use the hexagonal printing filler, so it's filled with loads of hexagons, you know, to fill it up. But it is solid, and it works really well. I mean, obviously, safety is key with that. You have to make sure where all the sharp bits are and things sticking out of it. But I use that, and there is ways of improving it, like I said, and I will improve it. But that's, again, when we do the show about 3D printing and stuff like that, we'll talk about more about that. But that is an excellent piece of kit.
Keith's making a donut chuck next Tuesday lunchtime. He's going to be showing how to make it and showing it in use.
Cool.
Very nice,
Yeah,
Keith.
if Leona doesn't mind putting the link to forkandbananas.com, there is a calendar on there, and it tells you when everybody's live shows are on, and Keith is on that calendar. So I believe, yes, he is. You can go along and look at that calendar. Question there. Is that ABS or PDG? Wouldn't trust PLA with the pressure of a mortise, to be honest. It is PLA. It is PLA, Ruben, that I use. That's for those that don't know 3D printing, that is the type of filament that you use. It's the only filament I had at the time, and I've used that probably about 15, 20 times. I've never had an issue with it. It's solid. I don't use it high speed. I only use it for detailing spheres and for hollowing out spheres and things like that. I don't use it at high speed, and I don't use it for any sort of pressure cuts. The sphere's already formed, so it's already smooth, and I'm using tools against. So I'm pushing against the headstock. So I'm not going from the side.
The headstock, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm pushing towards the headstock. I'm not going from the side. You couldn't anyway with the way that's designed. It's designed for straight on doing work that way, but ideal for drilling out and things like that. Thanks, Leona. Leona's just popped in the forkandbananas.com. That's a live event calendar. So if you click on that, you can connect it to your own Google Calendar, and it will give you reminders of when lives are going to be starting and stuff like that. It's a very handy thing, and I try and keep it up to date the best I can when people tell me about things like that. So yes, while we're at it, comments below in the description below. In the description below, I have all sorts of videos linked for the likes of Carl Jacobson, the Wyoming Turner, Mike Peace, and they're really detailed videos on chucks and jaws and making jam chucks and making vacuum chucks. And I've also got links from all different stores from across Canada, US, Ireland, UK, of where you can buy all these chucks and stuff like that. And also some videos on different weird sort of chucks, you know, like eccentric chucks and things like that.
They're not cheap. They're not cheap, that's for sure.
No,
and I think that's why a lot of people make their own chucks, because they are expensive. The more specialized chucks are very expensive.
Yeah. I don't think I'd ever buy one. I think to do with what you can do with them, you can, there's always a way around it, right? whether you
Yeah.
just fix it in the chuck differently, or you can literally just off center a glue block on a
yeah,
plate, and
or
you can
just
do it that
angle
way
it in the
too.
jaws just a little bit. So there's
Yeah.
different ways of doing it.
So I had another question from Steve Robbins in the group chat earlier, and he said, a question for tonight's live. When using a glue block, is there a minimum size of glue block to use? Looking forward to tonight. So that's a bit of a hard question because it depends on what you're turning.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, obviously you don't want a tiny little glue block for a big piece. Obviously, the bigger surface you have on your glue block, the more purchase you're going to have between the two sections, and the harder grip you're going to have.
So here's an example of something that I've cast. It's a piece of wormy mapper. It's not maple. It's wormy mapper burl, which is dyed blue, and it's cast in resin. It's not clear yet. It's not finished. I cast it in black ABS pipe. Not the right stuff to use because the resin sticks to the ABS pipe. The white pipe, what's the white stuff, Steve?
PVC.
PVC. It doesn't stick to the white PVC pipe, but the ABS pipe, it does. So I ended up putting that between centers and turning it away. But what I'm going to end up doing is putting this surface on a glue block. And realistically, this glue block only needs to be 1/4 of an inch bigger or so all the way around. Just so I will hot glue this directly to it, and then I'll just hot glue around the edge of it. And then this piece here, the first 3/8 of an inch will be scrap anyway. So 1/2 an inch maybe will be scrap. And then this will get turned into an egg. I actually turned an egg last night. Yeah, a little bit smaller. It's quite small, but it's probably the best egg-shaped egg that I've ever done. And mainly because after I turned it around and I made a little hollow in a scrap piece of wood, and I put it into the hollow and hot glued it in, and then I was able to finish off the backside so that it was egg-shaped. Otherwise, if you're just using a parting tool, it's going to give you a flat bottom. And a lot of guys turn eggs with flat bottoms. And I think it's because it's one extra step to go to turn the egg around and finish its bottom properly.
But not only that, they probably don't want to turn a separate stand for it and such like as well, right? I mean, if you're going to turn an egg, they want it to stand up too. So
well, not necessarily.
Eggs don't stand up.
An example. Well, it's not an egg then, is it?
Example.
Exactly. Years ago, my dad used to turn a whole bunch of eggs, and he gave everybody a bowl with 6 eggs in it. And that was the first time I'd ever seen anybody turn an egg. There was no YouTube back in the 80s. There was no internet in the 80s. No, there was nothing. So so he was the first guy I ever seen turn an egg. He never did any hybrid stuff like this. This will come up crystal clear. The other one did. I was quite happy with it. It's actually got little bit of glow powder in there. I don't know how good it's going to be, but we'll see. But that, and again, that boils down to glue chucks. So gluing that on, you want your glue to be really, really hot when you glue that on. So let it get really hot, and then put pressure on it. Hold that pressure, let it cool down before you start working on it. And then the bead around the outside edge as well, just to give it extra support. And the one I did yesterday, same principle. It held up really good.
Yeah, the other thing as well, when you're doing, well, when I make glue blocks anyway, I don't know if everybody does the same thing, is to sometimes, depending on how big it is and how much surface area you're going to have, you maybe want to drill a hole through the center and not put glue around that area. So if you need to, you could knock it off from the back if it really gets stuck on there. But also concave your glue block just slightly, that it fills up with glue, that you get a good amount of glue, that it's not just a flat on flat. If you concave it slightly, you're going to have that cushion of glue that squashes out when you push your piece onto it as well.
And again, that depends on what your you're doing.
Yeah.
If you need
Size,
that bottom as part of your piece, then yeah, you want to do that. But if you're going to be curving this around and parting it off and eliminating this altogether, then it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, does it? The other alternative is to take the end of your glue block and cut a slot in it that you can put something in and pry it off.
Yeah, exactly. That the glue blocks as well, I found, is certain glues as well are rubbish. The cheaper glues that you can buy for glue guns, it seems to be made of a more rubbery material, and it doesn't tend to grip as good either, I've found. And it can just fall off. I mean, even if you get it really hot, it just doesn't seem to hold. So yeah, buy decent glue sticks. And
my first glue gun I bought from the dollar store, thinking it's a glue gun, right? A glue gun's a glue gun, but it's not. It doesn't get as hot. So then I bought a better one. But now I've seen Lee Valley. Yeah, Lee Valley have one now. It's quite expensive, but it's a really good quality hot glue gun. So I'd imagine it gets hot pretty quick too. Whereas the one I've got now, I may upgrade at some point still.
Well, the one I have now that I really like it's from Lidl or Aldi, one of those, which are their budget shops over here. But it's cordless as well, so you can either have it corded, so it's plugged into the wall, and it's got like a like your old radio lead that plugs in with a 2-pin thing. It's got one of those, and you can either leave it corded that it's on all the time, or you've got a adapter that it just pops into on the wall, and you can just pull it off, use it, and then pop it back on, and it's great. It gets really, really hot. There's no cord around the lathe or anything like that, it's been brilliant for me anyway.
So for the few seconds you take it away, it's not turned on anymore, but it's still hot. It's still hot though.
Yeah, for the amount of time you're going to be using it for.
That works.
Exactly. So that's glue blocks and jam chucks. I mean, I suppose with that hybrid blank you've got there as well, you could do a jam chuck as well, couldn't you? If you wanted to.
Well, I thought you were going to mention it actually, but you could make basically a mortise that this would go into, which would give you even more surface to grab onto with glue. That's another alternative as well, just to give you more stability as well. So there's so many different ways of solving a problem.
Yes, so that's pretty much all the chucks, Rob, I think.
That's it. Yeah.
Is there any questions before we move on to the giveaway? We might as well talk about the giveaway, Rob.
We can do that.
I tell you what, just before we see, is there any questions? We are on 162 subscribers for the channel, Rob. Can you believe that?
No.
That's 10 shows. In 10 shows, we've gained 130 subscribers. I think
and
that's
12
fantastic.
of them are watching tonight.
Yeah, well, no, there's 26 of them watching tonight.
26? Wow.
Actually, yes.
It's embarrassing.
Why? Why are you embarrassed? You're so famous.
Just look at him. Just look at him. He does all the talking.
I don't. I've got better.
Steve likes to talk.
Yeah, well, I was born to talk. Shh, you. Anyway.
Whatever.
But yes,
we haven't actually got a wood of the week this week, but we do have a topic if we have time. What time is the show over? Is it 6?
No, 11.
Which is 6.
Yes. It's over in about 10 minutes. Rob.
Well, do you want to discuss this real quick?
Yes. Let's do that. What is it?
So, okay, I'm going to have to read this, and I'll try and get through it fairly quickly.
What is it? Would you like a?
You can put up wood of the week. Put up wood of the week.
Okay, let's do that.
And now it's time for the wood of the week.
Okay, so it's not actually a specific wood, but it's dealing with greenwood. So we're talking about wood that you've found, you've cut down, or whatever. Somebody's given you a log that's just been cut from a tree was alive. So allowing lumber to simply sit until it is dry may be the simplest and least expensive method to season wood, but it is also the very slowest. Drying times can vary significantly with each piece of wood or with each type of wood species or whatever. The traditional rule of thumb is air drying lumber is to allow 1 year per inch of thickness. So it can take a long time to dry a bowl blank sized piece of wood, for example. Hang on a second. The traditional rule of thumb, blah, blah, blah. Invested times. So yeah, you can understand you're going to invest a lot of time in drying wood that way. So a kiln is an option to control the drying process. While there are various types of kilns used to dry lumber, the basic premise is usually the same. A large insulated chamber is used to balance and control humidity, temperature, and the airflow to safely and efficiently bring the wood down to an acceptable moisture level where you can work with the wood afterwards without worrying about cracking and checking and stuff. The main advantage of a kiln is that with the increased temperature and airflow, all while carefully maintaining and controlling the ambient humidity, the wood can be dried much more evenly. So a kiln is able to dry wood much more evenly, and it is uniformly drying the wood as well. So that's going to help prevent the wood from cracking and checking and splitting, because we've all seen that. We've all got that. But kiln drying may also introduce internal stresses in the wood, particularly if an improperly kiln schedule is used or if corrective measures are not employed, resulting in honeycombing. I was going to send you some pictures of honeycombing, but what that is a crack that's within the wood and it doesn't go to the outside of the wood. Yes, honeycombing. Kiln drying wood also has many other secondary effects as well, such as killing powder post beetles, which is definitely, you don't want them in your shop. Powder post beetles are not a good thing. However, it can also cause some woods, such as black walnut, to lose the vibrancy of their heartwood colors, resulting in a more uniform or washed out appearance, which wouldn't be good for walnut. We love the contrast between the heartwood and the sapwood of woods like walnut, black walnut for sure. For most woodworkers, running their own kiln to quickly dry lumber may be impractical or excessive. In most instances, simply storing project lumber at a targeted humidity level is the best option. Cut the wood slightly oversized is recommended. Remember that the wood's going to shrink as it dries. This is along with the material that will inevitably be lost when the boards need to be jointed or planed or smoothed and cut and stuff. Seal the ends. So when you've cut the wood, it's a good thing to seal the ends of the wood. There's a multitude of different things you can use. There's products out on the market that you can use, but you can also use latex paint and different things like that, because if you got to remember that the moisture will leave the end grain 10 to 12 times faster than it will leave the side grain. So you want to make sure you seal the end grains so that the moisture is basically forced out of the side grain, so that way the end grain shouldn't crack, hopefully. Just trying to get through this here. So stack your lumber so that there's airflow around it. Otherwise, you can get moisture in there and mold build up. A drying cabinet can also be used, which is essentially like a kiln, I guess. You're putting the wood in an enclosure, which is going to maintain humidity and temperature, and it's going to bring it down to an acceptable level all at the same time. You can use a little incandescent bulb on a dimmer to get the right temperature you want, a little fan to get some airflow. Some noise upstairs. Oh boy. The result of uneven shrinking vary upon the particular shape and grain orientation of the board. Flat sawn boards become cupped, rift sawn square stock becomes diamond shaped, and circular dowel rods become oval. Branches of trees tend to have more stresses in them than the main trunk. So the main trunk is more ideal for our purposes, for turning, for sure. I I've lost track of where I was now. Steve, help me. Okay.
Hold on, I'm going to mute again while I laugh.
Yeah, thanks. Branch of trees. Yeah, I just said that bit. Okay, so storing freshly cut wood in barrels of water is one method of preventing cracking until you're ready to properly process the wood. I know that Cole Jacobson does this. He'll take wood that he's just had cut and he'll put it in barrels full of water. I don't know how long you can leave wood like that, but it's going to stop it from drying, and it will evenly soak the wood. So it's going to be the same moisture content throughout the whole piece of wood, which would be a very high moisture content. Cover stacked wood with tarps to prevent direct sunlight exposure, as this will dry the wood faster on the outside and increase the chances of cracking and checking. Turning green wood on the lathe is always fun to do, easier to turn than dry wood. Your tools stay sharper longer, but water tends to spray everywhere. Turn to an even thickness of 1/10 of the diameter of the bowl. You can store this in a paper bag or a cardboard box with its own shavings. Keep an eye on it and air it out occasionally to prevent mold. And you can always add a cup of Comet, which is essentially what do you call it? Steve, help me. Comet will prevent the mold from growing and the fungus from growing as well. So it's okay. So we got to be aware of bugs and grubs that may be living under the bark or boring into the wood, particularly carpenter ants. I know this because I bought carpenter ants into my shop one year, and that was not fun. Had to get the man in. Had to get the special man in to get rid of those buggers. They're not fun. That's basically it, really. And of course, you can deal with the shavings and the offcuts however you want. You can burn them. You can use the shavings for mulch in the garden or whatever, but certain ones you can't. Some of them are toxic. Black walnut would be toxic, so you don't want to put them on the garden. You can use them for pets like rabbits and guinea pigs or whatever. But maple and cherry and woods like that, of course, people will be using them for smoking meats as well. And you can even make fire starters out of them.
I stopped giving my shavings away. I used to bag up all my shavings, filter them out, make sure there was no bits of towel and things like that in them. And I used to give them to a lady at work who has horses. And she used to use it for whatever she used it for the horses. And then one of the horses got sick. And she said, what shavings did you give me? And whatever wood was in it. Now, the horse didn't get really sick. It just, it was sneezing and snotting, and it had like allergy issues. And she said, yeah, I can't take those shavings anymore because obviously different sorts of wood. So I just said, I'm not going to give you shavings anymore. I don't want to kill one of your horses. And I've had people asking for shavings for their rabbits and stuff like that. I've said, no, I'm not going to do it anymore. I've got loads of land that I can just scatter my shavings off into the wind and let it go. There was a question. There was a point put up there by Benjamin, which is a good point that we didn't cover. I've seen people use double-sided tape for very small pieces, and yes, I have done that too. You do have to make sure that it has to be, as Benjamin said earlier, you do have to make sure that it's good tape, good strong high grip tape. Carpet tape. But yes, double-sided tape, absolutely. And again, the same as using a glue block with double-sided tape is the surfaces that you're putting on have to be really clean, and they have to be oil-free, wax-free, or any kind of additives on the wood, because it just won't hold. Dust as well. Give it a good wipe down with a bit of denatured alcohol or whatever.
Joseph's talking about silica gel. I think he's talking about drying wood. Yeah, there's people out there too that will put a piece, say they've rough turned a bowl, they'll put it in a box full of cat litter or silica gel. What it's going to do is it's going to do the same thing. It's going to dry it at an even rate at the same time. It's going to dry evenly quicker than it normally would.
You can get a big giant cardboard box as well and put your blanks inside it. Put your 8-year-old son in there with it, with a hairdryer. Shut the lid. Leave him in there for months. You could put a little slot in and just pass him food every now and then, and he could just be there like that with the hairdryer, and it will dry really, really nicely that way. Apparently, allegedly.
Haven't got one of them.
Right. So, giveaway time. Yes. To thank you, our viewers,
And you.
And you for sticking with us and making it point, giving us a point to actually set up on a Wednesday and do these things. You've probably noticed that the show's evolved a little bit. It's gone a little bit away from the silliness side of it, the Steve side, to the more kind of serious wood turning side of things. Yeah, I mean, we do want a little bit of fun stuff. I will start slowly adding the fun stuff into a bit, but I just think that maybe the whole information and making it more wood turning related does make sense.
And
but,
not that we're trying to say that we know everything, because we certainly don't.
No.
The point is we're trying to gather information in one place from different people, different sources. And we're learning as well. We're finding out stuff and sharing it. And that's one of the large things that YouTube is about, is sharing information.
Yeah.
Try not to share misinformation. That's the problem that a lot of people have with it. And that's what we're trying not to do. We're not trying to share misinformation. So this show is largely, we're trying to give you information that's something that you can put to use, that's safe.
And it's always our opinion as well on certain things too. We're not telling you to do it certain ways, but between us, we've got a good few years of experience, in a lot of hours in behind the lathe, and a lot of hours learning by our mistakes as well. So we are just offering what we know about wood turning, and I try to, best I can, research as much as I can, by asking people or by going online and stuff like that. So, but we're not afraid of being corrected either. So if there's something we do say on a show, please do put a comment below and say, you were wrong, and we will correct it the next week. I will make sure that I correct it, and I will put it up the next week. So don't be, but that's the good thing about having the likes of Ruby and Barbara and people like that as well, because when we do say something wrong, when they're in the live chat, they can correct us, and we're not embarrassed to be corrected. I like to be corrected. I like to learn and make sure that I put as much information as I can with any video or live that I'm doing. Right, giveaway time, Rob. So
yes,
what we're going to do is, because Rob is in Canada, I'm in Ireland, I'm going to cover kind of UK, Ireland, and kind of the Europe side of things. Rob is going to cover
that side of the planet.
Yeah,
Canada. I'll cover this side of the planet.
Yeah, Canada and America, because so we're going to have two winners. We're going to pick two winners, and what we want you to do is, just in the comments below this video, we want you to go in after the video is finished, not in the live chat here, but in the comment section under the video. We want you to put what should we say, Rob and Steve.
That's what you said earlier.
Yeah. We love you. Click. Put in the comment. I'll tell you what you put in the comments below. Yeah. We love you. Click and clack. Okay. In the comments, right? We love you. Click and clack. Put that in the comments. Share this video.
Yeah.
And go over and like the Rob and Steve Facebook page. So go over to the Rob and Steve Facebook page. Maybe Leona will put the link in the chat here. I think, if I haven't, I will add it into the show notes, and share it about. We want to try and get more and more people in watching this.
We need to at least get 200 people.
Yeah, it'd be good. Yeah, it'd be good to get 200 subs too. Yeah. Just saying.
Yeah. Also mention in your comment that you're USA, Canada, or you're Europe. Yeah.
So yeah, we love you. Click and clack. Ireland, we love you, click and clack, Canada. If you just put it that way, because then we know which side of the world you are. So if you just put, we love you, click and clack, Ireland. So Steve's sorting it out. We love you, click and clack, Canada. So Rob's sorting it out. Okay.
There you go.
Rob, what are you giving as a prize? These are coming personally from us, by the way. We haven't got any kind of sponsor or anything.
No sponsors from me and you. So I'm going to be giving away 5 awesome pen blanks, and they'll be really nice pen blanks. So that's what I'm going to give away.
Are they wood or are they hybrid or
they'll be wood and hybrid? There'll be a combination.
Okay.
There'll be some nice pen blanks.
All right. And I'm going to give away a pen set. So basically it will be a nice pen kit. It will be a nice resin blank. There'll be a wooden blank. So you can choose between either the resin or the wood that you use. So there'll be a pen kit, resin blank, wooden blank, and the bushings to go with the pen kit. So you'll have enough to turn a whole nice pen, and I'll even throw in a case for the finished pen. So it'll be a whole set for you. So you can turn your pen and give it away as a nice gift in a case and everything. So there you go. There's the Facebook link down there. The owner's just popped it in there. Make sure that you've liked that Facebook. I can check that. So if you do enter and I go over to the Facebook page and see that you haven't liked it, then it will be a you're not gonna win. Okay, so that's that. So yes, we love you, click and clack Canada, or we love you, click and clack Ireland. Share this video to your social medias. Make sure you like it as well.
Like the video,
and go over and like the Rob and Steve Facebook page. The Facebook page, we do use it for kind of updating you with things and like that. And what we would like as well from all of you is your input as well. So as I did today, I posted the video on the Rob and Steve Facebook page. If you've got questions and things you want to ask us, if you want to ask us questions, or you've got something you want to get off your chest to do with the particular subject that we're talking about, then please do let us know and we'll do that. Yes, Rob, I think you've got to get in touch with that man this week and organise the interview, because I think next week we'll try and organise getting an interview sorted.
Okay, I will speak to him.
Yes.
And we need to chat and get some questions together for him, and we'll get that recorded ASAP. Do a Zoom meeting with him. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or we could do it the same as we did Barbara. That worked too. So Gary Lowe has agreed to interview as well. So I've got to get in touch with Gary Lowe. I think he'll be an awesome interviewee.
He's made some awesome looking pieces.
Yeah. So he has agreed to do an interview. So I'll get that organised for a couple of weeks' time as well. So that's it, folks. We're pretty much there. We are there. We're past time.
Exactly. There you go.
Wow. Doesn't an hour and a half go really fast when you're talking absolute shite? Right?
Yes, Steve.
Okay. All right, guys. Thank you very much.
Thanks for watching.
Anymore. You used to be so much fun, and now you're just like boring and straight. And come on, Rob, smile.
I've been smiling all night.
Yay!
This is a smile.
All right, guys. Thank you very much. Don't forget, we love you. Click and clack Ireland, Canada. Like, share, subscribe,
win.
and we'll see you next week.
Winner.
We will draw the winners next week's show.
Yes.
Okay. So that's when you've got this whole week to get your entries in. Only one entry per person, unfortunately, and we'll see you again. All right. Thanks a million, guys.
Take care.
Bye, Rob.
See you, Steve.
See you, folks.
See you, folks. Bye. Thanks for watching.